Welcome to a scanning demo by Eddie, the technical instructor in photography here at Bennington College. And we are going to start out with the Epson Expression 13000 XL. We're going to be focusing with Epson Scan for this first scanning software, and we're going to be moving into a few other ones after that. I have my film loaded already, and it is on the scanning bed. I will attach some pictures to this video to make sure you know how you're loading everything, but just be gentle. If you have any questions, ask them, and don't use anything you don't know how to use already. So we are in Epson Scan 2, and once you open it, it's just kind of one long dialog box. You should be able to kind of navigate the software as there's only a few drop-down menus, but we want to make sure that our scanner, where we're at, is the Epson Expression 13000 XL. Scan settings we can leave alone. Mode, we can leave it on photo. Our main settings are really important. So our document source, we want to make sure that we're using the transparency unit if you're scanning film. If you are not scanning film, then use the scanner glass. Transparency unit and document type, depending on what you're going to do, I would just leave it at color negative film. It's not a big deal if you scan black and white on this, but if you feel comfortable switching, then please do so. Image type we're going to keep, we can keep it 24 or 48. It just depends on what you're kind of scanning. If you're really worried about it, then just leave it at 48, which is what I'm going to do today. Just know that 48-bit is going to increase your file size by double. Our resolution, for time's sake, we're going to stick with 1600. Color management, we can click on there and just kind of look around. Color control, we can leave it at what it's at. So we'll hit OK. And then up here in advanced settings, I think I'm going to keep my unsharp mask at middle. You can use middle or low, depending on what you're scanning, but I think this is usually pretty good. Everything else I will leave off. Down here, I'm going to make my file a TIFF format for when I'm scanning, and my file name I'm going to change. So I'm going to go to settings. I like to keep the date in there, so I'm going to use March 17th, 2026, and I'm going to put a 20 and a 2 in there. And then I'm going to leave the number of characters to 2, so then that way this will be 2 numbers, and then I will bring this down to number 1, and we'll start from there. Alright, and then we can hit preview. Once you hit preview, the scanner might take a little bit of time to warm up. You might see the light on the scanner blinking, and it'll make a little bit of noise. This scanner is much faster than the other scanners, so just know that. So now we've got a preview of our images, and I'm only scanning the ones closest to the top. When you load your negatives, you need to make sure that they are upside down, because this is scanning from the top down, not from the bottom up. Okay, so if you're curious or want to try to figure out which way is which, make sure you load something with some text in there or like a design, and then you'll know which way is the right way once it hits the preview scan. So I'm going to make 2 marquees just by clicking and dragging, and I'm going to make one on this other one as well. If you make a accidental marquee, maybe you make it too small, you can always move it and drag it around and adjust its size by going to one of the edges. It's up to you. If you made a marquee by accident, you can delete it by holding Command and Delete. Alright, the one with the little dancing ants is the only one that's going to be scanned at that moment. Some of the scanners you can do batch scan. I think on this one you might have to go to thumbnail options and go from there, but today I'm just going to scan these 2 individual ones, and that's it. But I'm going to do them one by one. So I've got my frame around the image that I want to scan. What you need to know is that this marquee is going to use an automatic exposure tool to adjust the colors and the exposure of your image. What you can do is you can make your marquee a little bit smaller, adjust your frame so that it's inside of the negative, inside of any of the edges, and it will make a pretty good determination of what it should look like. What you can do then is just extend it a little bit past your borders, and then that way it has a better kind of chance to make a good exposure. So right now we've got a little bit of edges showing on each side, and that always works for me, especially when I'm cropping something. This allows me to make sure that I have a little bit of extra room on the edges just in case I need to crop or rotate anything, and it just makes it a little bit easier to maneuver afterwards. So I would always recommend to just leave a little bit of edge around your image before you scan. So now that I have my settings correct for this one, I'm just going to hit scan. And right now it's scanning to the desktop, so we should see the image pop up right over here. When you're scanning, try not to mess with anything. The scanner can be pretty delicate, especially while it's scanning. One thing that can also happen is the computer can get overloaded if you're scanning too many things at once, or scanning and then doing a bunch of other tasks. So I usually recommend that people just stick to scanning on the computer, don't do anything else, and let the computer and the scanner work together to make your scan without bothering it. One thing I would recommend as your scan finishes up is to make sure you take a look at it on Photoshop. All right, so I would open it in Photoshop and just to see what we're looking like. One of the things you want to do when you open something in Photoshop is you want to make sure that it looks in focus, and you want to make sure that you add a profile. So right now we've got our edges that we left on in the scanning software, but what we can see first is that our profile down here is non-existent. It says untagged RGB. So you want to make sure that if you can't see that, you click on this little arrow, go to document profile, and what we want to do is we want to add a profile. How we do that is we go to edit and then convert to profile, and then we want to make sure that our destination space is Adobe RGB. You can leave these just as how they are, and we'll hit OK, and that should change. Yep, Adobe RGB 1998. Then you can go in and check to see the sharpness of your image. If you can see a bunch of little dots like this, that's your grain, which is very important. Sometimes these scanners can be a little soft on certain edges, and that will make your images out of focus. Once you've determined that your file that you opened in Photoshop is in focus and has a profile, then you basically completed a scan. So you're looking good. From here, you can continue to edit your file and do what you need to do. I'm going to scan a black and white image and do the same thing. When you're scanning black and white film, make sure you change your document type to black and white. All right, so if you're using color, click on here, choose color negative. If you're doing black and white negatives, then do black and white negative. Okay, and we're gonna hit preview again. Adjust your frame as you need, and you can go ahead and hit scan. Once the scan finishes, then you can bring it into Photoshop. And we want to rotate our image and check that we have a profile. We don't at the moment, so let's add one. And remember, Adobe RGB 1998, and you can leave these alone. And there we have our image. So remember that these two images that we have scanned, we're scanning directly from negative to positive, and this is using Epson Scan 2.